Hi, welcome to my video. I'm Jennifer Roberts. You're catching me on my YouTube channel, True Divine 44. You can also get me on my Bitchute channel, True Divine 44, and it is the True Divine for both Instagram and Twitter. Any likes, shares, subscribes, excuse me, itchy nose, comments are greatly appreciated, and much love to everybody who is doing that thus far. I appreciate you all more than you can know. So this is where I put out the free content on a daily basis to help support, guide, and inspire those who need to be or want to be supported, guided, and inspired. Take what resonates as it is general and leave what does not. This is for the 19th of December 2020, and I wish you all a great day ahead. With everything that you require within the day and more. So, I'm doing things a little bit differently in that I'm getting to know this Nostradamus deck more and more. I think it brings something, regardless of what you think about him, it brings something more to the table, a slightly different feel. So I'll be reading from the book a little bit, but what amazed me is how accurate it came out in that we've got the all moons. And so the first card is this Four of Moons. And so you see, it's got the snake, the serpent, the papal in the middle with his pen, his feather, and the serpent to his side. So this speaks of despair, deceit, dejection, all of the D's, disillusionment, and so it's harming the foundations of everything that has been known before. And so when we look at the reading for this, the couplet says, forgeries of gold and silver multiply, so that after their seizure, they are thrown in the lake. So it's saying that this is about the dullness and boredom that can stretch into self-loathing. And I feel that this is more connected to the collective stage, in that the so-called powers that be have become so, if you think of elemental magic that I've spoken about before, if you try and hold on to your elements, if you try and not be in flow, if you're trying to be miserly with your elements, whether that's passions, whether that's emotions, whether that's earth, whether that's, with greed, or love, if you try and sort of sit on it and keep a hold of it, if you don't pay it forward in whichever element that is, earth, air, fire, water, ether, if you hold on to it, it becomes distorted. It actually can drown you, bury you, burn you, suffocate you, because these elements are meant to be in flow. We're meant to be in continuous symbiotic relationship with nature itself, the realm that we live upon. We're supposed to be in this continuous circuit board of sharing. And so when we hold on to this, like the so-called powers that be have, they've held on to the ground, the earth, owning so much of it, of their money, their pentacles. They've had to have more and more and more. It becomes a point of where they want even more emotions, because they've become so distorted and so burnt out, so drowned out, so suffocated out, so just disjointed and distorted because of their miserly holding on to power, that it does feel that we've come down so far in the generations of the so-called powers that be, the ones that hijacked this realm so long ago, that we see psychopath type nature, in that they're going into crazy extremes that would suggest almost very distorted childlike energy playing a game that wants the whole board. They want to have and own the whole monopoly board. And so we see that they are actually acting out like a child. They are actually out of boredom going to the extremes to gain even more power, to gain even more control. And so what do we do? Well, right now there's too many of us still um, doing what, could be said is lax parenting, in that we're allowing the children to parent us, these so-called powers that be, these distorted childlike energies. We're allowing them to lay the ground rules. As a good parent, you know that I'm very easygoing. I allow my children to adventure. I allow them to explore themselves and explore their boundaries. But I'm very quick when I feel that they're doing something that damages their ethics, their morals, there's something that would distort what their true nature is, or just that is not acceptable. I'm very quick to be the mother. I'm very quick to lay the ground rules, and there be no question to that, that I know best. I am the guardian. I'm the one that is here to keep them safe and guide them and give them that safe space to explore themselves and grow and learn how to have their elements in flow. Learn how to channel their elements rather than their elements hold on to and channel them, so they don't get burnt out, drowned out, suffocated out. So what do? We need to become the parents. We do need to make a stand now, because children who are in this distorted state, who are feeling insecure about their position, which these so-called powers that be are, they are dangerous. They'll have tantrums next to a road. They'll push the boundaries even more, because a child that isn't in check, a child that doesn't feel safe, will be naughty. It'll push the boundaries more and more and more and more, because ultimately there's something within them that wants something outside of them to make it stop, to make them feel like they've got some kind of fencing to how far they're allowed to go. And so I don't think, I know that we need to be standing up now as adults and saying we are not children. We are not acting like children anymore. We are sovereign, divine beings. And actually, we've been through in this experience long enough to have the gift of becoming adults. And we are guardians of the generations underneath us that come after us. We cannot allow you to try and parent us when you are in your distorted childlike manner. And we certainly cannot allow that to filter down into our children, who we are the guardians of. Whether you have your own biological children, whether you've adopted your children, or whether you have no children at all, my children are your children, as your children are my children. We are the guardians of them all. We don't own them, but we do have to guard this space for them. We do have to guard this space to make it safe. And it's certainly not safe in the so-called powers that be, that have too much power, quite obviously. And so this is what I got from this. So that's the first card. It says here, there's a dejection, a bitterness, a being stuck, a dissatisfaction, and there is a bit of an affliction, in that they know they've gone too far. And yes, they've gotten a lot of what they want. Yes, they've gotten a lot of the reactions that they want, but actually they haven't got enough of that reaction, because nothing can actually satiate their desire for power and control. Nothing. Because they've burnt themselves out. They've burnt out any core being of the human aspect of empathy, of compassion, of care, of love. And so this is where we need to take our stands as adults and as guardians. for the next generation, and indeed for them, because this is already bad enough for them. Energetically, this is already, not good for them as far as wherever they may go next or whether they stay in this realm. It's not good for them. And so we've got the next card, and the next card is the Five of Moons. And so you see here we've got this being here that is studying the family tree, and you can see the cycles of the moon above him. And this being the 5, so we've gone from the 4 to the 5. So this is a progression in this story. So it says here for the 5 of Moons, the couplet is, they will offer themselves to Luna within the quince, where they will be taken and placed in a strange land. And so this speaks to me of, one, it tells me the plan of trying to create a habitat for the powers, so-called powers that be. They're trying to create this habitat, but they don't actually know quite what they want. There's lots of ritual practice in this, and there's lots of low frequency magic in this, low frequency witchcraft in this, in that as far as the jabs in the arm, they are low frequency magic, dark magic, DNA matter from the very beings that I was just talking about guarding and protecting, that changes the land within the body, that changes the makeup of the internal body land, if that makes sense. I'm trying to talk carefully. And this is low frequency magic mixed with the methodology of science. This is where we see that they will be actually transplanting people who have not known themselves enough, that they have offered themselves to this ritual. They've offered their arm to this ritual, and they will be placed in strange lands, this being the collective. But this card speaks of suffering, of grief, and of loss, of disappointment, despair, and regret. It speaks of inheritance and deceit. And so as far as this is being told, these people lining up, we see that they are being deceived. They did not do the work to know themselves enough, to know their own being, to know their own family tree, as you see in this book that this beast is studying, to not know their true origins, that they would offer themselves up to a ritualistic practice that they know very little about. And so this is happening. This will happen. I feel not to the amount and wishes and wills of the so-called powers that be, but enough. One is enough, quite frankly. And so we see this, what is cannibalistic in a very ritualistic form, rituals taking place heavily today. What it does say to the rest of us is that now is the time to be really grounded in our roots that we've been creating throughout this whole experience here. Really grounded in the knowing of the beings and the capacity that we are. really grounded in our inheritance. And our inheritance is to come here and be able to experience to the fullest the abundance of this realm. Our inheritance is that only because we choose it to be that we choose to be divine and sovereign and recognize who and what we are in our own individual right and as a collective, as a many. But there are those who have forgotten so much that they've forgotten that inheritance, that they've forgotten that by doing this ritualistic practice, they will literally cut themselves off from their DNA line. They will be a part of ending that DNA line. That is so sad and such a statement. The Holy Grail is the codes. It is the codes that we hold within our DNA. And this will be the end of many lines. This is where, maybe, just maybe, things come about, and they come about to be what they are. And nature does have a way of clearing. And as callous as this may sound, as throw out there as it may sound, anybody who's been listening to me, knows me or feels me, knows that there is not one shred of callous nature in my fiber. When it comes to life, when it comes to the potential of the beings that are here in this realm, the potential for growth and learning and expansion, the reverence that I have for life, all life, and the what would seem like insurmountable obstacles to grow from past mistakes. I see that and I respect that. I don't limit that. But there is this point where this is a point in time that historically in my being, I can't remember since maybe like Anunnaki type energies, in that this will be an ending of of holy grails, of codes, of DNA lines, which nature does this, it rebalances. We have gone too far with complacency, and those that are lining up for this in their arm, they are the complacent. And it is the numbers of the complacent that have helped us get into this point where we do see, because of these powers that be having so much power, we do see children still starving. We do see children still without a home. We do see families out on the streets. We see people out on the streets. We see abuse of children. We see trafficking. So where it might seem really dim and really dark, there's light within that. And this is a difficult message for me to convey, because I realize a lot of you have loved ones who will be in that line. And I realize that this could trigger people. And I don't mind that, because I've got to share what I'm led to share. But this is where we are at, and this is what we face watching and observing. And it's part of my role to prepare people for that. I know what my role is. Not in its entirety, like everybody else. It's unfolding and it expands in front of me. But right now, I know what I'm led to share, and I know what I'm supposed to share, in that this is big, this is deep, and nature does make space when it needs to rebalance. And we all know that we have come to a point where we desperately need to rebalance. There should not be children going hungry. There should not be mothers and fathers choosing not to eat in order to feed their children. There should not be billionaires on this land, in this realm, and children not eating properly. Not just eating properly, but eating abundantly, eating good food that hasn't been interfered with, that hasn't been, GMO'd. And that's not to say that people can't have different drives and attain different things. And some people really be driven to earn more and create the jobs for the people who just want to go to work and then go back home and experience life more so in a different way. But the balance is way, way out of whack. So it's to know that even though this light is difficult to face, it is actually a light in the darkness regarding the clearing of this, that the complacent will be cleared by this. The leaves that will drop from the tree and make space for the new growth. And that's where we have to step in. And that's where we have to be everything but complacent. That's where we have to be absolutely demanding in our manifestations, in our statements of what we will accept and what we will not accept. In that we will not accept children going hungry here. We will not accept children being abused here. And that being part of the rebalance, and that being worth it, that being worth this light that is difficult to look at. Difficult to look at for sure. So we've got the next card, and this is the number 14 of moons. And so we see here that this guy is tending to a flock. And again, he's got the moon. They're beautiful cards, and they're beautiful cards to shuffle. They've got a great energy. And so he's tending to this flock. And so let's see what this one's got to say. I did put markers in them because, as I say, I'm still getting used to it, and they've got huge explanations. So the couplet for this one is cold dryness. Oh, no, it's not. That's the wrong one. Scratch that. So the couplet for this one is the augur and the chief will put forth their hands to the king. From the king will come a peaceful emperor. So this is where there is the honesty, integrity, kindness, equality, a scientist, an artist. And it describes the Paracelsus, 1493 to 1541, a philosopher and a pioneering chemist and revolutionary medical practitioner, considered to be the founder of modern pharmacopoeia and therefore of countless natural remedies. So it goes on to say that he thrilled and shocked generations and was in and out of favour with the courts of Europe for the things that he was doing for the people. And so this is where real medicine lies, and this is where the clearing is worth it, because this is where the rebalancing comes in. And you're called upon to stay in your honesty, in your integrity, kindness, and the demand for equality. And not equality like the rip-off version that we see right now, where these groups of people are being triggered into shouting for equality in a way that actually gets them less equality, that puts them into victimhood mode. But just that we know that we start living by natural law, that we have the right to every natural remedy that is here in abundance in this realm when it's not being interfered with, that we have the equal right to be able to experience this realm without hunger and without organized disease that is manufactured and put out there. This is where we are seeing the clearing. And as difficult as this time might be, It is what needs to happen. This is the rebalancing. And we need to draw it in with our honesty, integrity, and demand for equality in the right way, not the equality stomping ground that you see on mainstream media, out on the streets. But with our wisdom, we call these people to be accountable. We do not get bossed around by distorted children in these so-called powers that be. We stand as pioneers of a new age, of a new cycle, the new age of Aquarius, where we look outside of the box, where we start to see limitless possibilities, where we see that no one person or no one small group of people will hold the power that they hold right now, where we see that that should be distributed in order to be kept safe, in order to be kept in flow and measured, so that it cannot be distorted the way that it has been distorted thus far. And so, with that being said, on the bottom of the deck, the only card that we have here that is different from the moons is the 9 of Suns. So we've got the lion-like beast here with the flock of sheep. And so let's have a look at this one. And the lion-like beast is holding a sword of truth, and actually coming from the mouth, look, there's like this branch, and of course it has the 3 fleur-de-lis like leaves on. So the Trinity. But I haven't read what this card is. I'm just picking up on what I'm looking at. And so the 9 of Suns, the couplet says, accords and pacts will be broken. Friendships will be undermined by discord. Attack, reassessment, delay, adjournment, estrangement, frustration, stagnation, defensiveness. In your individual lives, we are going to be facing that with these ones that do not want to accept what is the truth. I don't know what the heck has happened to my camera just there. We see that, you know, this is putting great strain on friendships, on families that are at loggerheads, those that want to line up and get this distortion, this low frequency infusion into the vascular system. I'm trying to think of words that are careful. And those who see the truth, and those that can see what's happening. And so this will put strain on. It generally warns of an unseen threat. And so one thing I want to say is that we need to really be quickly, very, very quickly taking a stand and making our governments accountable, calling them out for not being fit for purpose, or either not being honest about the impending threat regarding, because a lot of this is a distraction and not at the same time because it's part of the agenda. But one of the biggest threats that we have right now is China, and that is on many borders. And so this threat is being downplayed, and the honesty has not been shared quite as much as it should have been at all regarding the fact that the people who say that they are protecting us and are bossing us around from their distorted childlike energy are the very people that have sold us out a long time ago and continue to do so via China. And so the people, the armies, the troops, the police need to start asking themselves the question of to who do they serve? Because in continuing to go along with the government, the very government that actually does not really serve them either, that will have them out of a job, is to stab themselves in the back as well as the collective that they are paid to serve. And so, sorry about that beeping. And so it's a difficult one, because we see that we need to stand up now, and it's hard to stand up when you aren't aware of the threat. But this is a threat that is coming from under the rug. This is something that a lot of people will not be expecting. And it's a warfare. It's Sun Tzu. It's a warfare that we're not used to. We're used to hearing about warfare and seeing bombs, seeing gunfire, seeing things that are loud and noticeable. And that is more than likely going to be seen one way or another. To what level and what amount is dependent upon us. Regarding, do we stand now? Do we start saying, no, we do not recognize the authority of the very people that are selling us down the river, and open up our businesses, take back our children, demand that there is transparency regarding the education of our children, and take back our medical rights in knowing exactly what ingredients are in what. That we need to be able to do this very, very quickly now, because we aren't, we think we have the best armies, we think we have the best protections, and yes, we do have very good protections, but not if secretly half of the people high up within those protective systems are actually already working for the very people that will attack. So this attack is more cyber, it's more, right now, it's more cyber, it's more mental, it's fear-mongering, it's locking people in their own imprisoned mind, people, making people see the need and requirement to self-isolate, so self-imprison themselves. This is the art of war. It's not going in there all gung-ho, and I think there's going to be some gung-ho very, very soon, but it's not going in there all gung-ho and loud and brash. This is, subtle. It's like I've mentioned in videos before and on statements, this whole scenario has been a testing ground for the conditioning of how close we are to accepting CCP type agendas, CCP type dystopia. And people have danced to the tune a little bit too much. And so we see ourselves this far down the line. But with this last card on the bottom of the deck and the last moon card there, we have this power still. We have this power still to take back our divinity and sovereignty, to not recognize these bullies. They are acting like distorted children, frightened of losing their power, frightened of losing their toys, frightened of being caught out for the very things that they've been doing that are very, very naughty. What would you say as a parent to a child at first dealing with a bully? Be brash, have your shoulders back, look them in the eye and say, come on. Most bullies back off. Most bullies get frightened. Now, I'm not saying it's as easy as that. That's just for instance sake. but this is where we are at and this is what we need to be doing. And so this was a bit more of an analytical reading. It's the kind of energy I got from these cards. I hope it helped and gave you something in your individual lives. Yeah, there's going to be some difficulty today if this resonates with you, in that there's a lot of breaking away and disappointments in relationships, and maybe how people are not so conscious, and that can put a lot of strain on you. And sometimes it can just help somebody talking about it and recognizing it, and telling you that you're not alone. And so if that's what I've been able to do for you today, then that is great for me. So, but apart from that, I want to leave this with some kind of upbeat energy in just remembering this card here, this card here, this honesty, this integrity, this Aquarius energy, looking outside of the box, seeing different ideas, seeing different solutions, and being brave enough to even take on the courts, to even take on the so-called powers that be that put themselves on those thrones. This is a hugely brave energy, and this is us. This is us. We have this in spades. And so we can do this. We can absolutely do this. And this is all part of what we signed up for, to liberate this realm, to protect those that we are guardians of, to protect those that we serve as guardians, to build a land that is strange, but strange with wonder and awe and abundance, provision, safety. And so I'm going to leave you with that, because it's a bit of a long reading. I never mean it to be, I'm sorry. It just goes. And so I hope that helps. The interesting cards, and the fact that all moons came out, and then on the bottom of the deck, that one sun. Not such a nice sun, but you know, it's a sun anyway. It brings enlightenment to those who are going to be around for you. It brings enlightenment for you. You know, in these kind of energies, in the sun tzu that we're in these kind of energies, you know, we do need to know exactly who we can rely on and exactly who has our six. So it still is a positive card in that right alone. So just have another look at those cards. Super interesting. How's the camera gone? I don't know. Super interesting, but concentrate on this one here. This honesty, integrity, this Aquarius-like energy, thinking outside of the box, finding new solutions, finding new ways as an individual, but that impacts the collective in a positive way. And that's where we are. That's where we're continuing to be. Much love, stay balanced and stay whole. I appreciate each and every single one of you. And for each and every single one of your days, I put out the intent that you have everything that you need to feel blissful, to feel powerful, to feel sovereign and divine, and that all of your needs are met and more in every area and aspect of your life. That's my intent for you, and so it will be. Much love, stay balanced and stay whole. Mwah.